Welcome back to another episode of the HigherUp podcast. I'm your host, Michael Smoke, and with me today I have a very special guest who I'm excited to talk with. He's the owner and CEO of Nutrition Solutions, a company that I am proud and grateful to be a part of, and a walking, living, breathing example of what it looks like to overcome extreme adversity and turn it into unprecedented success. Mr. Chris Cavallini, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for the intro. It's good to be here, man. I'm glad that you're in town and really looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise, I guess I should say thank you for having me, not thank you for being here, because we are in fact in your studio.
We are.
Thank you for that as well.
But either way, you're very welcome.
Thank you. I want to kick this off with an interesting quote I heard you say, because I think in the state of the world today, we have a lot of people who push off accountability and fall to the victim to their circumstances. And you said something in a podcast with Brad Lee that stood out to me. I grew up poorer than you. I grew up in harder circumstances than you. I had every circumstance working against me, and I still figured it out. Can you expand upon that a little bit and tell me about your background?
Yeah, so I was arrested 17 times for my 18th birthday, another half a dozen times after that. I have multiple felonies on my record. Growing up, my mother was a drug addict, had me at 16. Father wasn't around, so I didn't have a traditional childhood. I was exposed to a lot of adversity very early on, spent time in foster homes, group homes, juvenile detention centers, and of course, as I said, jail cells. And I grew a lot from those experiences. Unbeknownst to myself, all of the adversity that I was facing at that young age was actually preparing me and giving me the strength to go on to do things with my life that are considered to be statistically impossible. So I regret nothing. If I could go back and change something, I absolutely would not, because every single thing that's happened to me to this point in my life, the good, the absolutely terrible, and anything that happens to fall in between, has made me where the person that I am today. And I'm proud of the person I am today, and the things about my life that, I'm not proud of, I'm working tirelessly to improve on that. And I think the point to be taken out of that is, in life, I believe, from my personal experience anyway, that the worst things to happen to you are actually the best things to happen to you. And what I mean by that is, when you go through these character building experiences and you face, confront, and overcome adversity, it basically just gives you the ability to handle other adversity that's going to inevitably come your way in life. Because in life, the war is coming. The fight is inevitable. Mm-hmm. And, you can either wait, or you can attack life, or wait for life to attack you. And at the end of the day, we need more adversity, not less.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote I love, that something to the effect of, someone in worse circumstances than you, who had it harder than you, figured it out. So really, what is your excuse? You can either fall victim to those circumstances, and someone like you would have been perfectly justified to continue to have lived in that lifestyle, fighting, getting involved with the cops in Massachusetts, or you can succeed in spite of those circumstances.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to, is a mindset shift. And I was very fortunate to be given an ultimatum by the state of Massachusetts after as I said, I was arrested 17 times before I turned 18. And then my senior year in high school, that escalated significantly. And eventually, the state of Massachusetts, they started to recognize that maybe I wasn't learning my lesson, considering I continued to show up in their courtrooms, and the nature of the crimes that were being committed were escalating. It started off very minor, right? Like minor in possession of alcohol, possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia. But then it started to escalate to things like breaking and entering, and battery, assault with a dangerous weapon. And when they saw that, they basically realized that I needed a change. And again, I didn't realize that at the time, but I'm so lucky that they did. And they gave me an ultimatum to either go to jail or join the military. So I, of course, chose to join the military. And
Good choice.
yeah, exactly. And it's funny, because the military, not only changed my life, but an argument can certainly be made that it saved it. The military taught me discipline. It gave me structure. It gave me purpose. It gave me the opportunity to work around a bunch of high-value men. I was in a pretty prestigious community with a lot of guys who had a lot of experience, and I was just a kid, and they took me under their wing, and they helped shape me into a man. But I would say the single most important thing, the most valuable thing the military did for me, was it got me out of the environment that was making me sick. It got me away from my hometown. It got me away from the triggers and the energy that was causing me to do the things that I was doing. And I want to make it perfectly clear, right? I'm not saying that it got me away from certain people. It did get me away from certain people, but I was the worst amongst my peer group. So I'm not saying anybody influenced me to do anything. If anything, it was the opposite. It's not something I'm proud of. But environment is everything. And, you know, for anybody, we could just get right into some tangible action steps. For anybody who's not feeling it, if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, I truly believe that moving away from your hometown is a fucking life hack. It is a life hack. Every single time I've made a move, whether it's from Boston to the military or leaving Jacksonville, Florida to come here to Tampa about 10 years ago, my life improved radically, immediately, not eventually, immediately.
One of the things that I noticed in what you just said was you started to talk about the group you're with and the environment being not conducive to where you wanted to head.
Yeah.
But then you quickly pivoted and said, I was the worst of it. It was my fault. It was my actions. That speaks to ownership and accountability. Something you talk about a lot is accept that everything is your fault and you can change it more quickly. So how do you tell someone to shift their mindset from this is my life and my circumstance to this is my fault, it's my responsibility to change it?
Well, you can either own it all or you can be a victim. You can own it all and succeed, or you can be a victim and be miserable forever. It's a choice that everybody has to make. The way you change your life is to make everything your fault. You have to make everything your fault. If you lost your job, you weren't bringing enough value. That's your fault. If you're overweight, you're not in the gym, you're not eating the right things. That's your fault. If your girlfriend or wife cheats on you, that is your fault because you were not doing what you needed to do as a man, or you just failed to recognize that she had a character flaw. Either way, you have to accept complete responsibility. If, of course, you want things to change. If you blame things, when you blame other people and other things and other circumstances, you make yourself a victim. And you cannot grow from a position of victimization. When you take responsibility and you own it all and make everything your fault, you basically break free of the chains of victimization that are holding so many people back.
Yeah, well said. And I think it's the most important lesson I learned from taking ownership and accountability for everything in corporate America. When things maybe weren't directly done by me, you can work to a solution more quickly. You can get to the solution when you attack problems and not people and just say, this is my fault. Let's move past it. So what have you noticed in your business of carrying that culture of accountability? What was the biggest impact you noticed in building that culture of extreme ownership in yourself and then carrying that into your staff? Because you do something that I learned is damn near impossible in corporate America, which is top-down alignment from your mission, your vision, your values, what you want the company to be. Everybody in that team, that workout we did today, which was a burner, by the way, everybody's bought in. So how do you get people bought into that degree?
Yeah, that's a good question. It obviously is very difficult. It takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of energy. I wouldn't tell anybody that it's going to be easy, but for me, it was just what needed to happen. I had a character building year in 2015. I was arrested for crimes that I committed 3 years prior, went through an arduous legal process that drained my finances, drained my energy, took my eye off the ball with my business. So I was fortunate to get through that without being sent to prison, although I was looking at a lot of years in prison. In fact, had I went to prison, which I thought I walked in the courtroom that day for my sentencing, prepared to basically leave the courtroom not in or on my own free will. I could still be in prison today had that gone differently. Wow. So when I walked out of that courtroom that day in 2015, I remember, I had a lot of friends there. I had people that I served with in the military that flew in uniform to be there to support me. I had a lot of my team there, and it was a pretty cool moment just to see the support that I had. At the same time, I realized that I'd just been kind of half committed. I hadn't been taking anything seriously. I hadn't been taking my business seriously. I hadn't been pouring into my team the way that, anywhere near close to what I do now. I was just half committed to my entire fucking existence. And unfortunately, I was unaware of that fact until this situation happened, where I was basically at a place where I almost lost my freedom, and our freedom is the most valuable thing. So I realized that, my lack of commitment was a slap in the face to all the people who were there that day, all the people who believed in me, all the people who supported me. Because during that time, there was a lot of people who did not. You find out who is really about it. You find out who the real ones are when you go through some shit. You want to find out who the real ones are in your life? Fuck up real bad.
See who's there.
Yeah, and see who's left.
What do you say to someone who looks at you and says, Chris, you're pretty intense? I mean, this mentality, this extreme ownership, what you expect and demand of your staff, that I don't think that's necessary for success. What do you say to somebody like that?
I don't demand anything from my staff that I don't demand from myself on a higher level. We are in the business of changing lives. We are in fact in the lifestyle transformation business, and I take our mission very seriously. And again, after the situation in 2015, I changed everything. I changed my mindset. I changed just my daily habits, my routine, all these things. And one of the things that I started to work on is beginning to develop a culture. In 2016, we started doing the team workouts. The first workout that we ever did, okay, 2 people showed up, and one of them didn't even work for us. One of them was one of our vendors. So that's the humble beginnings of PT. And, we were out there this morning, and, there's 30 something people out there getting after it.
I thought you'd be lying if you told me that right now, because the turnout today was crazy.
And the first workout, we walked a staircase for about 45 minutes. That's all we did.
Really?
An outdoor staircase. Yeah.
So you said 2015.
2016.
2016.
Yeah. So when I started working towards shaping the culture and improving the culture, I just had to define what success looked like, what I wanted my company to look like, and what I wanted my team to look like, and what I wanted our clients to look like, and the results that we get our clients. And I realized that the greatest probability I have of impacting the most amount of people and changing the most amount of lives is by basically impacting and changing the lives of my team, which is why we have the systems built in that we do. Our team, they get free meals when they're on shift, so they're eating clean. They have access to top shelf supplements for free all day, every day. We do the 2 workouts a week, which are really intense. They're paid to do that. And, what type of hypocrite would I be if my team was a bunch of fat, gelatinous, just lazy, normal motherfuckers? Like, I want our clients to have the confidence of knowing that the people that are behind the product and the people that are behind the brand are actually on the same path as them. I mean, it wouldn't be a very inspiring sight to our clients if, we had a bunch of just overweight, just normal Americans working for us.
Yeah. One of the things I didn't notice until I got there this morning, you have a big painting on the wall outside the entry door that says, "No one ever made a plan for being fat, broke, lazy." That's what happens with people without a plan.
Yeah.
You glossed over something quickly there that I think is super unique. You said, "I pay them to work out." And we were in that workout this morning multiple times. So you guys are getting paid to do this. You don't have to, you get to. Why do you pay your employees to train?
When I was in the military, I was very fortunate to be in a community that prioritized physical fitness. The physical fitness standards of the community that I was in was higher than the normal military, as it were. And just from a young age, I just developed a positive association with morning workouts and how much better I felt throughout the rest of the day. And obviously the military figured that out.
Sure.
Right? The reason that they do that, the reason that they're investing in their service members to train before they, attack the day is because they recognize it puts them at a higher frequency. It's not just about the physical, right? Like morning workouts, evening workouts, it doesn't really matter when you get it in. It matters that you do get it in. But if you have the option, I absolutely recommend that you do your workout first thing in the morning. You set the tone for the day. Do the hardest thing of the day first thing in the morning. And, you're not only going to feel better, you're going to have more energy. You're a hell of a lot more likely to make good decisions as far as the foods that you're putting in your body. You're going to be in a better mood. You'll be just a more locked in, higher performing version of yourself. And that's why I do it. That's why I do it, because I want my team to be optimized. I want my team to go into every day fucking supercharged. I say we kill the workout, then we kill the day. Today we obviously went hard, earned our weekend, did the ice baths, did the training. And I want to do everything I can to build my team and develop my team. And, as you saw today, I'm not always gentle about that. I'm a firm proponent of tough love, because that's the type of love and really what it was shame. But that's what helped me change my life. When I showed up to my first team in the Navy, when I checked in, I was young and I didn't know shit. But of course, I didn't know that I didn't know shit. But the guys that I was working with, all older, all more experienced, all more seasoned, they made me acutely aware very quickly that I wasn't shit and I didn't know shit. And when I was not performing up to standards, they let it be known, and they didn't let it be known in a very kind way. They weren't at all walking on eggshells or tap dancing. They're brutally honest, direct feedback. And I responded to that. And people do respond to that. Tough love is still love at the end of the day. We could talk about shame at length, but I believe shame is a call to action for a masculine man. Since the dawn of human civilization, shame has been used to inspire action in men. If a man was not performing to the expectations that is demanded of him, then he would be shamed. In the most feared dominant warrior cultures, we're talking the Spartans, Alexander's Macedonians, the Mongols, all of these just feared dominant warrior cultures had a culture of shame. And that's why they were feared, and that's why they were dominant. And, in present day, we have a lot of movements around really the acceptance and glorification of mediocrity. And that's just not the way I want to live my life. And the reason I'm so outspoken about that is because I know there's people out there who do respond to that. It might not be you listening. It might not be the next guy. You might not like my tone. You might not like my demeanor. You might not like when I say the word fat, right? Fat is a very triggering word
for some people.
It's in the fucking dictionary. It's in the dictionary, is it not?
Yeah, I agree. It's bullshit.
And the thing about that is people are like, oh, everybody is okay the way they are. It's like, no, that's not true. If you are obese, okay, you have a disease. Obesity is a disease. This is not discussed enough. And surplus amounts of excess body fat is a symptom of said disease. We don't tell people who have AIDS that, oh, you're good the way that you are. No, we encourage them to seek treatment, to do everything they can to optimize their health and basically do whatever they can to get themselves back on track. And I realize that my message does offend some people. That's certainly not my intention, although I don't let it bother me. I can't let it bother me because my message isn't for those people. My message is for the people who use that shame and use those harsh criticisms and tough love as a call to action and make the necessary adjustments to improve their life.
It really is. It's become a bit of a bummer for me in my time on the internet in the last year. I've become a little bit jaded because I've seen just how bad the projection can get. When you say something that brings out something that they don't like about themselves, they'll say something about you. They'll be negative. Of course. And it's really, I've always given people the benefit of the doubt, but unfortunately, the fact of the matter is a lot of people are living in this cyclical pattern of blaming their circumstances. And I've seen the comment, I am fat because of my medication, because of my genetics. And it's bullshit. Yeah. It really is. And you commented on my video about how fat shaming saved my life, how I overheard my best friend from the other room say, smoke looks like shit.
Yep.
And words can only hurt you to the degree that you believe they're true. And it was true. And I had at that point decided, this is my rock bottom, no fucking more. And you said, shame is a great motivator for masculine men to get started. And I think it's important to say, everybody needs a fucking catalyst.
Yeah.
You don't need to use shame for the rest of your life. That may not be healthy. Use pride, use confidence. But in terms of starting the fucking fire, I think shame is an amazing, amazing starting point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to point out that I am not walking up to people in the street and putting my finger in their face and calling them fat. Yeah. I'm not doing any of that.
Let's get that clear.
I would only speak that way to somebody I cared about a great deal, to a friend of mine, somebody on my team, but I don't ever have to do that because, I mean, if I'm being honest, every close relationship that I've cultivated in the last 10 years, I can't think of one of those individuals who didn't get in better shape, male or female, from being in close proximity to me because we are a byproduct of the people that we spend the most time with.
That's a recurring theme of yours. I hear you say that a lot. You are
Because remember where I was, how I started, and not only just how I started. After I got out of the military, I reverted back to my old ways, started selling drugs. I was a fuck up, and then again, I changed my environment. I started surrounding myself with the right people, but initially, what I did is I actually just stopped surrounding myself with the wrong people. A lot of people wonder, you hear that you should hang out with people who are disciplined, who are driven, who have goals, who want to kick ass in life. And, a lot of people look around and they're like, well, shit, I don't have anybody in my life like that. And that's because the universe is only going to attract into your life what you are. So if you want to attract those kind of people, you have to become that type of person first.
What's your take on that? The universe and you attract what you emit and manifestation and all that heady woo woo shit. Are you a believer in that? Because I am to a degree, but I'm curious about your take.
Yeah, I am. I think it's important to manifest. I think it's important to get very specific about what it is that you want your life to look like, because it's pretty easy to go absolutely nowhere without a destination in mind. But none of it happens without sacrifice. None of it happens without hard work. None of it happens without being uncomfortable for a long time. There are going to be periods of time in your life, if you're trying to, create a life that other people draw inspiration from, there are going to be periods of time where you fucking hate what you're doing. You hate every fucking second of it. But what you do and how you act and how you show up, how you perform during those times, that, in my opinion, determines not only where you go, but who you become.
How did you pick the group that you hang out with now? What does that look like for you? I mean, you've got to be careful how you invest your time, who you invest your time in, because that's the one asset we can't make more of is time. Yeah. I told you earlier, Nutrition Solutions has bought back 130 hours of my time. And as a new entrepreneur, that's invaluable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
How
did you quantify that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I ballparked. I've been on the team. I mean, before I was fortunate enough to be sponsored by you guys, I was on paying for it for 3 months, and I assumed conservatively, let's say I spent a half an hour a day cooking, mm-hmm. and that's conservative. It's probably more like an hour. And I just extrapolated that over 30 times 90 times 120 days, and I got to this exorbitant number. But then I realized that's time that I'm creating content, that I'm coaching, and it's made me more money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that's really hard for people to understand, because you guys are a premium solution in the space. Mm-hmm. And I see it as an investment. And I've had people reach out and say, the donuts look awesome, the meals look crazy, but it's just expensive.
Yeah.
And
by the way, we're not the cheapest. We're absolutely not the cheapest, but we are the best.
Yes. What makes you the best? Because I know what I think makes you the best, but in your own words, what do you think gives you that edge over those other guys?
I really think it just comes down to the company culture. We have a culture of people who are eating right, who are working out. They're not, some people are in amazing shape. Some people are just getting started, but either way, we live the lifestyle, and we genuinely care about our clients. And when people come to our company and they start, obviously they're new to the culture, they're new to the operation, and we basically help them understand the impact that they're having on the clients that we have the opportunity to serve, the lives that we're changing and in some cases saving. That's real. And every day we start the morning meeting off with a win, where we're sharing client success story, client transformation, just something that helps the team understand the impact that they're having and the manifestation of their efforts outside of what is in front of them every day. And again, I think if there was a short answer to that, I would just say our culture and the mentality that we put. We want to get our clients the best results. We want to get our clients the best results in the shortest amount of time with absolutely no stress. And the way we're going to do that is by providing a premium product, by providing a world-class customer experience, by putting out great content, by just making our clients engaged in the process, educating them along the way, motivating them along the way. I think that's why we are where we are.
And I think when you lead with that level of intensity, because you are the same to everyone, right? You treat them all the same with respect, but if you don't like something, if it's not up to par, you'll tell them and you'll let them know. And I think what's really cool to see is the sort of natural leaders rise to the top. You've got Lewis, you've got Mark, you've got Carlos. Carlos is a silent leader. He was a savage in the workout. but you've got them bringing this energy into that morning muster. You're not there. You wouldn't know if they did or didn't do it.
Yeah.
But they showed up and they bring the energy. And by the time that muster was over, I was ready to go start packing donuts. I mean, it's really cool to see what you can do if you lead with a mission and a vision and people really buy into you. I will give you kudos on that. It's pretty damn cool.
I appreciate it. But you asked about surrounding myself with people and how do I determine all that. So I want to just tell a story here and have a little prop to help illustrate the story. So if you put fleas in a jar and capped it, right? The fleas, well, if you took the cap off, the fleas could easily jump out. Fleas can jump really high. Put a cap on there, and after just 3 days, they're not going to try to jump out anymore. And it's really interesting because you can actually remove the cap after 3 days, and those fleas still won't jump out because a mental barrier has formed in their collective consciousness. And the crazy part about that is these new limitations basically translate to their offspring. So they then produce offspring who have the same patterns and same limitations as their parents. And I think this is precisely what happens in life. You know, we are a byproduct of the environments and people that we spend the most time with. And the issue with that is if you're constantly around people who aim low, you'll never jump as high as you're capable of. This is why it's so important to have standards, to create non-negotiable standards. I want to be in this kind of shape. I'm going to weigh this much. I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm only going to eat this kind of food, right? I'm going to work out this many days a week. Non-negotiable, high standards. You create high standards and then you conform to them without exception. You know, the lion will never eat grass. No matter how long it goes without food, the lion will not eat grass. It's not going to do it. The lion is the king of the jungle.
He won't settle.
He's not going to settle. He's not going to demean himself to eating the same food as animals that he deems to be weaker and inferior. And I just think, I mean, even in times of scarcity, the lion isn't going to compromise on its standards. And I just think it's a phenomenal metaphor for life because standards need to be upheld without exception. The absolute last thing that you want to do is lower your standards to make someone feel like less of a loser. If you raise your standards, you have a very high probability of maybe not bringing everybody with you, but bringing a lot of people with you. And if you live your entire life and go throughout life conforming to the norms of society and the norms of the average, you will be just that. You will be average. And I don't know, man, we got one shot at this thing. And, you know, when they're reading your eulogy, I certainly wouldn't want anybody saying, yeah, Chris lived a very average life. He had a very average existence. He made a very average impact. He just did very average things. He had an average physique. He performed at an average, like I want people to remember me as being exceptional. I want people to be, you know, fighting over who gets to speak at my eulogy. Right? People saying about the impact that I had on their life, and whether or not that happens remains to be seen, but that's what I'm working for every day.
So you set a standard and you hold the standard.
I mean, if you want to win.
I have a simple rule that I follow. If I want to do something, then I'll absolutely do it. Mm-hmm. And if I don't want to do something, then I must do it.
Yeah.
I hear you say that all the time. Can you talk about that and why that's important to you?
Yeah, because a lot of people think that a lack of motivation is the reason they're not starting. They can't seem to find the motivation. I can't find the motivation. The thing is, you don't need to find the motivation. You're wasting all your valuable energy searching for this thing that is unreliable. And when it's there, it's nice, sure, but it's never going to be there for you when you need it most. And it absolutely has never been there for you when you needed it most. Take a moment and think about that. But discipline is showing up and doing the things that you need to do regardless of how you fucking feel. Showing up and putting in all effort, max effort, and just doing your absolute best, even if what you're doing isn't something you enjoy. And Mike Tyson said it best: discipline is showing up and doing the things that you hate, but doing it the same way as if you loved it. I love that definition of it because it's so true. And the interesting part about that also is, you're never going to do something for a long time and hate it the entire time. So we talk about fitness and the gym and getting uncomfortable and all these things. Eventually it's not as uncomfortable. Eventually you don't hate it as much, and you don't hate it as much because you can actually go 5 minutes without feeling like you're going to fucking die. When you're at the beginning of your fitness journey, you look like shit. You are performing at a very low level. You fatigue very, very quickly. You don't know what to do, right? You're kind of like looking at people, trying to follow their lead. Maybe you look at something online. That's not a very motivating dynamic. But if you keep showing up, you're going to get better. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get fitter. You're going to learn more, and your form's going to improve. And then once you start to drop those pounds, and once you start to develop some of that lean muscle mass, then now you've created some momentum. And, really, I think people often quit before they get to that point. It's like they're so close, and they feel like it's not happening. It's not happening. It's like, oh, fuck it. Let me go back to, the couch and Doritos and Pornhub. And I don't really think that that's a good strategy, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's the gym, whether it's a business goal, whether it's a personal goal. You have to be willing to do something bad before you do it good. Everybody who has ever done anything great with their life sucked at the beginning. And a lot of people don't take action because they're afraid of looking stupid. Don't fear looking stupid. Fear being in the exact same fucking position as you are now in 10 years.
I'd say you took the words right out of my mouth on both of those quotes. I was going to follow that with the Mike Tyson quote you mentioned, and also the fact that people quit right before they maybe get better at something.
Yeah.
I see all your employees with crazy weight loss transformations. I always say fitness is like a J curve. It's very steep as you climb, and it's steep and it's steep and it's steep. And all of a sudden you get to this point. For some people, it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, where it levels out and you kind of got a handle on it. But if you can just accept that you suck at this and that's okay, you get good and then you enjoy it. Because nobody likes doing shit they are bad at.
No.
It's in our nature. But the people that are extremely successful accept that that is just a rule of the game, and that life is a game. Running a business is a game. And right now, I don't know the rules. I don't know the players. I suck. But as I learn the rules and the players. I get better, and the game becomes much more fun to play.
Yeah, you nailed it. Very well said. And I think it really comes down to people just having the humility to be okay with being a beginner. Again, anybody who's ever done anything great with their life sucked in the beginning. So you're not unique. You're not special because you're having a hard time. It's supposed to be fucking hard. The fact that it's hard is what's indicative that it is in fact worth doing.
What do you think about ego and the role it plays? Because one of the things you mentioned was humility right there. Where do you think ego fits in or maybe doesn't fit in when it comes to your trajectory of success in your business and your life?
I think ego is a good thing, but I also think ego can be a bad thing. You want to have control over your ego, because if you do not, then your ego is going to control you. But I think putting your ego aside, not taking things personal, having the humility to take feedback without getting your feelings hurt. See, most people, if you were to give most people brutally honest, direct feedback, they would be mentally wounded and emotionally wounded for the rest of their human existence. And that's a huge problem, because whether we're talking about sports, the military, or just anything, any type of coaching, I don't know that you can get better if you can't take feedback. I just don't know that that's possible. At the same time, I think ego is important. Like, you should think that you're the best. You should think that, you're going to outperform your competitors. You should think that you are capable of more than what your parents did or the people that you spend the most time with. You should have unreasonably high expectations for yourself. And, of course, you need to back it up.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay to have an ego, and it's okay to think you're if you don't think you're the best, then nobody else is going to either. But of course, you have to back it up with your actions, because talk is cheap.
But people are going to struggle with that when they're just getting started. And a lot of the people listening to this are probably just starting their fitness journeys.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in the first 3 months. Maybe they're just starting their career. And when you say, have a relentless standard for yourself, hold the standard, believe in yourself, a lot of people don't have that belief. And one of my favorite quotes is, you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having that stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. So if someone has no confidence, they're 50 pounds overweight, they're broke, for me, the easiest place to start is in your body because that carries over into the rest of your life. So for you, obviously, you're a walking example of a meal prep company. Your body is your brand. So how important is it for you, your staff, and everybody around you to maintain a physique? And how do you think that would impact someone who just doesn't know where to start?
Yeah. So I think in answer to the first question, that you asked, if somebody was 50 pounds overweight, depressed, broke, where should they start? And I think the best place to start is usually by looking for things to cut out, right? Because you are where you are because of your rituals. Your life looks the way it does in public because of the actions that you take in private. So if you're not proud of your body, if you're not proud of your bank account, okay, well, let's look at some of the reasons why. What are you eating? How much exercise are you getting? Did you know 79% of Americans get zero exercise? Yeah.
79?
79% of
8 out of
Americans
10 people
get zero exercise. I mean, if you go to an airport and look around, it won't feel as shocking when you travel back home. Take a look and just, take note, but it's crazy. And, why do so few Americans work out? I'll tell you, I don't necessarily think it's because they're lazy. They very well might be. But I think for a lot of people, they're simply unaware of how much better they're capable of feeling. And it's really fascinating and kind of paradoxical because people avoid exercise because it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But are you actually comfortable with your body in existing circumstances? Are you proud of the example that you're setting for the people who rely on you? If you don't work out, I would guess probably not. Because the thing about comfort is too much of it will destroy your fucking life.
It's a silent killer.
Yeah.
I think most people, we talked about it yesterday at the taste test, I think a lot of people are living an unconsciously incompetent life where they're floating and they don't know what they don't know. They're operating at 55%. They have no idea that they could be operating at 80 if they just ate a fucking piece of protein and a green vegetable now and then and got out in the sun and moved. But so many people, what bothers me is that the competence cycle of unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence, where the pros are.
Right.
Most people just stay unconsciously incompetent. And I think that I want to push people to get out of that way. So how do you push people to realize that they're operating at 55%, to realize that fucking gut they're carrying is impacting their entire life?
I mean, the best way to do that or to do anything really is through the example that you set. I would like to think that my team and my peer group are the way they are and are on the path that they're on in some way, shape, or form because of an example that I have set for them. I think leading by example is an absolutely fantastic way to basically elevate people's standards, sometimes without them even knowing. Because the thing about our company culture, and you had mentioned a lot of our team who've had transformations, it's almost like a guarantee. Like I was asked a question recently in an interview, would I ever hire a fat person? So we hire people who are overweight all the time. All the fucking time. That's an opportunity. That's a fucking opportunity when we change that person's life and we help them reclaim not just their health, but their confidence. Then they're not only an ambassador for our company, but they're in a phenomenal position to really understand what our clients are going through to where they can actually help them and support them on their journey. So, yeah.
I think setting the example is, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I've been asked what my drive is for this stuff, and it's because I lived a lot of my life with people that I wasn't able to choose to love, my family, not prioritizing their health. And I told myself a long time ago, I signed that contract in my head, didn't break the agreement of, I don't want to be a liability to someone I bring into my life. I don't want to be a liability to my family members. But you bring up a strong point. Obviously, you're fit, you're healthy, you take care of yourself. I think it's incredibly important to the people who are curious, because a question I get a lot and why I wanted to pick your brain is, how do I get my spouse involved? How do I get my sister to start caring about her health? I believe if you simply lead by example long enough, eventually, not always, but eventually most people will silently buy into what you're doing.
Yes. And to add to that, be okay with the fact that you will encounter a bit of resistance. Of course. Of course. I mean, if you are raising your standards and training harder, working more, working on your personal development so you can, increase your value in the workplace, you can get compensated more, that can be alarming to somebody who is by your side and has been by your side, because as you ascend and they're watching you kind of evolve in real time, for an insecure person, that can kind of feel like a spotlight is being shined on them, right? That they basically, when they look at you, perhaps they are reminded of everything that they are not. So I think anytime that we're talking about the spouse situation specifically, again, it's about standards, and hopefully, people don't get to that point. But if you do, then you have to be willing to have the conversation. Like, look, I'm doing this because I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better provider. I want to be a better protector. I want to actually have the energy that I'm capable of having to raise our children the right way. And it would really mean a lot to me if you took this journey with me. And you don't have to be as intense, but let's just make this something that we do together 3 days a week, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And you hopefully inspire that person to go and get a little uncomfortable, get out of their comfort zone. If they're at the beginning of their fitness journey, certainly that's going to be the case, but it doesn't take very long, man. Not only if you're in terrible shape, like, you can actually shed the fat, the pounds fucking quickly
Fast.
in the beginning. I mean, the most weight I've ever seen somebody lose without trying to, dehydrate themselves and do all the water manipulation, crazy shit, or not eat anything. We had a client who lost 17 pounds in 7 days.
What?
Yeah, 17. This guy had been in a motorcycle accident, and he was sedentary, gained a bunch of weight. His very first week with Nutrition Solutions. This was during a time where we were a much smaller company, and we would have people, staff that would do like the measurements. So we would basically be able to track their progress and make incremental adjustments and recommendations to their diet and training. And this guy came in, got his measurements taken. The next week he came in, and normally at that time we would only do it we do it every 2 weeks, because that's a better kind of barometer of progress than doing it every single week. At least that's what we did at the time. And the guy just asked if we would be willing to do his measurements after the first week, because he felt like, I feel like I've lost like 6 or 7 pounds. And then they put him on the scale, and like I said, man, he dropped 18 pounds. It was nuts.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then, of course, what that did for his confidence.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy for us to sit here and talk about what that did for his confidence, what that'll do for every facet of your life, because we do it.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to show somebody, when I say getting a six-pack, getting lean, building muscle, you're probably going to earn more money. You're probably going to be able to have harder conversations in your life. You're probably going to want to go talk to that girl when you wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Your job, your life, your relationships. You show up different. You move differently. But it's so hard to get people who aren't in the existence to even understand that.
Yeah. So I think it really comes down to people working to build their confidence. The way that you build confidence is by stacking wins. You commit to an objective, whether that's showing up to the gym 3 days a week, whether that's losing 10 pounds, whether it's, increasing your value and earning additional, whatever that looks like. I honestly believe that if more people set a specific target and a specific standard and actually follow through to manifest it and make it happen, that's where the confidence comes from. Mm-hmm. But you gotta, in order to do big things, you have to first become a master at all the little things. So confidence is important. I think confidence is probably confidence and stress tolerance are the two things that I think influence a person's probability of success more than anything else. And the interesting part about that is, as you become more confident, I think they kind of are directly proportional. The more confident you are, the more tolerant you will be to stress. And unfortunately, most people don't operate amazing under stress.
Yeah.
In fact, most people crumble and completely fucking fall apart at the first sight of something the slightest bit uncomfortable. And that's that's a problem. That's a huge, monumental missed opportunity. You got to run toward it, not from it, because that's where the growth happens.
Well, that's another thing that I think the way that we train this morning and the way that you train, when you're out there in your garage gym,
Yeah.
exercise changes your relationship to stress.
Yeah.
Not only will it help you de-stress from a long day, which I'm sure you have a few of in a given week, but your body, your brain, we recognize stress or no stress. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the burpees we're doing, the ice bath, or your financial strain.
Yeah.
So if you can change your relationship to stress, everything changes. So what do you do typically to manage your stress as this company grows, your personal life? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I work out twice a day on most days, 6 days a week. I'm doing 2 workouts a day. One of the workouts might be an hour on the Stairmaster, right? Then I hit the weights and do functional training. I love functional training. I love explosive training. I love training out in the heat. It's hot as hell here. The humidity makes it that much more uncomfortable. I'm burning more calories. It makes the workout harder. Obviously, you get a better pump, like all those things. And when I'm training the way that I do at the intensity that I do, it's almost it's almost like active meditation because I'm at that intensity, because I'm going from one thing to the next, and it's really difficult. I don't have time to check the phone. I don't have time to think about that problem or that situation that's stressing me out. I'm fully present on, and I'm focused on what it is that I'm doing. And, between really hard workouts, I have a cold plunge and a sauna at the house. Again, like I want to streamline the process of me being the most optimized version of myself. So of course I built a home gym. Of course I invested in a sauna and a cold plunge. But if you're at the beginning of your journey and you don't have the resources to do that, all good. You can still take a cold shower, because I took a cold shower every fucking day for 8 years before I ever set foot in an ice bath. So I would say those things, and I stretch. I because the way that I train, and because I'm getting a little older, I'm 41 now, I have prioritized stretching more. I mean, I've always been flexible, but I want to be like really, 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 really flexible to help with recovery. But also, as I've gone through this journey and become more capable, and my body has opened up and rendered and just been able to perform at a higher level because of the fact that it is just open, what I realize is I also felt less stressed. And what a lot of people don't recognize is the body actually stores stress, and tight muscles are stored stress. So the looser your body, the more open you are, the less stress that you're going to feel. The thing is, the stress isn't going away. I want to make that very clear to everybody who's listening to this. Stress isn't going away. It is a certainty of life. It will always be there. And it's for that reason you have to train yourself to be able to operate under stressful conditions. And the way that you do that is by doing things that are hard, doing things that are uncomfortable, doing things that you do not want to fucking do. That is how you build up a stress tolerance. Because if you want to be successful at anything, it's going to come with an increase of responsibility. And more responsibility equals more stress. There's absolutely no getting around it. And, at the end of the day, like being broke is hard, right? Like working really, really hard to make a higher income is hard. Getting fit is hard. Being fat is hard. At the end of the day, people need to choose which hard they want. We're so fortunate because we have the opportunity to choose which hard we get in life.
Yeah, it's an absolute luxury. And life will be some form of suffering, stress, hardship, or difficulty.
That's life.
Either way. And I think my favorite lens to look at life through is a Zig Ziglar quote, which is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change.
Yeah.
And the way you view exercise is, I think, something that's just completely lost on a lot of people, and it's a damn shame. But I think that I'm hoping
What
that
we
we're
do is
changing
we
minds.
train.
We train.
Train. Exercise and training are two different things.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. The training is planned. The exercise is not.
Yeah, and the training, your intention, right? Your intensity is at a whole other level. You're locked in. That's what you're doing. We're getting after it. This is supposed to be hard. It's going to be fucking hard. I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you further than you've ever been pushed before, and then I'm going to push you a little further than that just to see what you do, because I want to see how you operate under stress. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing to the team. Obviously, I want them to get out of their comfort zone. I want to help them improve the stress tolerance, but I also want to assess how they act under stress, because when we're out there crushing those workouts in the 95-degree heat with the Florida humidity, you know, that will tell you a lot about somebody. And I want to make sure the people that we have on our team are able to operate and perform under stressful conditions, because we're growing very fast. We had our best year in 2023, and we're on pace to exceed that by 50% in 2024. And the next chapter, there's going to be stress. We're going to war. You know, we're in the process of transitioning to a new facility. It's about 5 times the size of the one that we're currently operating out of. And, you know, in order to really maximize that, and we're investing a lot into this project and initiative, and we're going to have to invest a lot of sweat, it's a lot of passion. And I want to know that if something's going to go wrong, if we're going to have some problem going on, I want to have a team of capable people who can respond and act and fix and solve problems, whatever, as opposed to, you know, breaking down and fucking crumbling because they just refuse to step out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I've seen the living example through your team of you're only as good as your weakest link, and you don't seem to have any right now. And the ones that maybe wanted to crack today, you jumped on it quickly. I mean, a great example. We finished the workout, 2 minutes of push-ups to failure, and then 2 more minutes when everybody thought it was over. Because you really peel back the layers of what a person's capable of. And this is...
I learned that in the military. I would like to just take zero credit for that thought process. I learned that in the military. That is what they did to us, and I hated it at the time. And, you know, they don't explain to you after the fact, well, hey guys, this is actually why they don't. But as time went on and I was looking back and reflecting, you start to extrapolate those lessons. So I want to, you know, pay it forward to my team by giving them the same experience that I went through.
Yeah, it seems to me that based on your experience, you were a Navy diver, is that right? You have a lot of parallels that you learned from the military that you carry into your business.
Oh, yeah.
And this is maybe more for me and some of the people that are starting businesses out there. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm in my first year of self-employment after leaving corporate America, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You left modern-day slavery.
I did.
I'm sure that feels tremendous.
It does. I feel like I escaped the Matrix, and I'm damn sure never going back. But I just want to know, I might call you a serial entrepreneur. Before Nutrition Solutions, you were self-employed, maybe in a little bit different light. But what have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned moving from self-employed to the beginning of Nutrition Solutions to now you're CEO, Chris? What are the things that you've learned along the way, or maybe the biggest shifts you've had to make?
Yeah, your capacity for growth will never exceed your level of personal development. I think personal development is the most important work of your life. It is more important than absolutely anything. And personal development, just so we're clear on what it is reading books, is attending seminars, watching informative YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, not listening to the podcast of the guy who you like, but listening to other people who might be a little boring, who might not, who basically can teach you something that you are not proficient at. For me, for a lot of years, it was finance. I was very weak in it, and I avoided it at all cost. And, you know, in my mind, I thought that was going to end well. Right? Like, I'm an entrepreneur growing a company rapidly, and I was weak in finance. My financial acumen was very poor if compared to the other metrics of my being. And once I started leaning into that area, that is when I began to have transformative growth with the finances. Because for a long time, you know, I started to make a lot of money, but I still didn't like have the money stacked up the way that I thought I would. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And, you know, I obviously just lacked financial discipline and financial literacy, as it were. But personal development is everything. It's the most important work of your life. And who you are now is a result of how you think. The way we act, the way we operate, the way we live our lives is a direct result of how we think. And if you want to change your life, you have to learn how to think different. Who you are now is a result of how you think. And the way you think obviously is going to influence the way you act. So through personal development, you learn from people who are more successful, who are more experienced, who have done the things that you aspire to do on a massively high level. And you start to understand the practical action steps and the strategies. And that's where real motivation comes from. Real motivation comes from increase in competency. See, everybody's looking to feel fired up, and they think that that's going to get them through life. And it happens precisely 0% of the time. True motivation is when you have somebody, a speaker, you have someone you're listening to, something, like this possibly, and they're providing you with practical action steps, telling you what they did to go from where they're at to, where they are now. And you start to realize, okay, well, that's actually doable. I can do that. It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And then that gives you a bit of confidence. And then you take that action, build up a little more confidence, and you rinse and repeat. And then eventually your life, you look around and your circumstances are completely fucking different. Mm-hmm. But it all comes down to personal development. I absolutely attribute the person that I am today to the books that I've read.
What are some of your favorites if you had to give me a top 3?
Okay, so I get this question all the time because people are aware that I've read a lot of books. Because I've read so many books and because I want to give the most amount of value to your audience,
sure,
I would prefer to give a recommendation in like a niche, multiple niches.
Yeah.
So if I'm at the beginning of my self-mastery journey, as it were, and I haven't read any books, I am 100% reaching for Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life by Brian Tracy. That book has had the most impact on me than any other book. I've probably read it in excess of 10 times. And every time that I read it, I've took new lessons from it. I received things differently because when I circle back to it, I was at a higher level of consciousness. I executed on the things that I learned, evolved my character, evolved my skill set. And then when I came back and listened to it, I'm interpreting it a lot different. I've read over 1,000 books. And what I want everybody here to understand is it was a huge waste of fucking time, a massive, massive waste of my mental energy. But it did teach me. It took me reading 1,000 books to realize that I would have been better off reading the same 15 books over and over and over again.
Right.
So I did that. I did that for you guys so you don't have to. As far as leadership is concerned, Extreme Ownership. I mean, there's
best book I've ever read.
Yeah, Extreme Ownership and Start with the Why by Simon Sinek. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and Start with the Why. I'll give you 2 for the price of 1 with leadership. That book is phenomenal. That really helped inspire a lot of the framework for our company culture at Nutrition Solutions. As far as finance is concerned, man, there's a lot of different ones. So I'm just going to give you a few. The 10X rule, right? Think and Grow Rich. And what's the Robert Kiyosaki book?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, this is elementary shit. A lot of people have probably heard the names of these books, but you haven't read them. So that's the thing. I think people are looking for like this secret book that has all the answers that, we're keeping a secret. It's not it. It's the basics. Start with the fucking basics. Become a master of the basics. And, once you apply the things that you learn, then you can evolve a little bit and maybe take it a little deeper. Mm-hmm. As far as mindset is concerned, appropriately, the books that I would recommend on mindset, the first one is actually called Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck, who is a doctor, a PhD, and it basically outlines what it means to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Mm-hmm. And it really does it in a very scientific but practical way to really help you understand how important it is to have a growth mindset, provided you want to live an awesome life. And Relentless by Tim Grover, final answer. That book, I mean, Tim Grover has changed my life. I learned so much from him, and I'm so fortunate to be able to call him a friend. And, he's a client of Nutrition Solutions, and he's one of the world's leading authorities in the mental toughness space. And I absolutely think, it's on our mandatory reading list at Nutrition Solutions. It's that good and that impactful. So if you're looking to reshape your mindset or build mental toughness, Mindset and Relentless by Tim Grover.
You guys have a hell of a client list. You dropped Tim Grover as a client. That's one thing I noticed. You've got some big names that invest in Nutrition Solutions. And I love what you said earlier. It's something I say to myself a lot. It isn't easy, but it is simple. And people try to overcomplicate it all the time. But I think that that's what makes it so difficult for people out there is they're looking for the secret book. They're looking for the answer. But in reality, extreme success in most things comes down to doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary period of time.
Yeah.
And so what in your opinion, in your day-to-day life specifically, what are the obvious things that you have in your formula for moving forward?
So a better way to answer this would be to just tell people, if you want to move forward, if you want to grow, if you want to live the most fantastic life possible, okay, you have to get really good at what you do. Whatever it is that you do, you have to be good at. All too often people, they have this belief system that when they find their passion, then they'll start trying really hard and start applying themselves and start actually caring. That's not the way it works. Passion needs to be developed. And you don't have to be proud of your job, but you absolutely have to be proud of your work, because your work is an extension of you. And how you do one thing is how you do all things. I mean, you heard me say that to the team earlier. It's absolutely true. There's zero exceptions to that rule. You have to be really good at what you do. You also have to be willing to work hard. The 40-hour work week is modern day slavery. The 40-hour work week is the biggest scam. It's such a scam that people don't even recognize it's a scam anymore. They want you to work 40 hours for 40 years so that at the end of it all, they can pay you a pension of just 40% of what you couldn't even afford to live on in the first place. It's a fucking scam. So you have to be willing to work a lot of hours. Now, if you're at a job where you don't have the ability to work more than 40 hours, because a lot of times you get capped at 40 hours, understand the most important work that you will ever do is on yourself, is on your personal development. It's not at the cubicle, it's not at the desk, it's not necessarily at your business. It is the work that you do on yourself, because that work is going to shape you into becoming something more. It's going to evolve your mindset, evolve your mentality, and give you the ability to execute on a higher level. And you know, the last thing I think is important to point out here is you need to invest. You need to spend less money than you make.
I notice you're big on this in your
invest.
content.
I'm huge on this, because everybody's fucking broke, and it's annoying to me. It's annoying to me that everybody's broke. I was broke for a long time. It sucks. It's stressful. It's hard. You're not the best version of you. You treat people differently, and it's unnecessary, because at the end of the day, if you're willing to get really good at what you do, if you're willing to work a lot of hours and willing to just have a bit of financial discipline where you spend less than what you make and then invest the difference, like, you can create financial freedom. It might take a little while, but it will happen. The thing is, people will use the excuse they don't know what to invest in. That's something that they'll use. And also they say, oh, well, I don't make enough money when I make bullshit. You start with where you are, you work with what you got, because if you can't discipline yourself to invest when you're making 30K a year, you won't be able to invest when you're making 300K a year. It's about building habits and building structure and having a disposition, like, again, non-negotiable standards. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to those three things. I mean, money is important. Anybody who tells you differently most likely doesn't have any. I have had a lot of money, which I do now, and I've had absolutely no money. And I will tell you, in both situations, I've still had problems, but in the position I am now, I'm able to navigate those problems a little more comfortably. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, money doesn't buy happiness. That's another thing that they say. I completely disagree with that. I think money does buy happiness.
I do too.
Because if, you are able to retire your parents, say you have older parents and they didn't save and they're having to work some job, they're 71 years old, can't even stand up straight just so they can pay their bills. If you're able to retire them and take care of them, an argument can be made that buys their happiness. Money can cover an emergency procedure for a sick kid, for a kid who literally needs to have whatever operation in order to sustain life. I would argue that would make his or her parents as well as that child happy. So I think it's just framing it a little differently, understanding that you having money in and of itself isn't necessarily going to make you more happy. It's the freedom and the luxuries and the opportunities that you are now afforded that will make you happy, or at least will make you proud, which I think is a far superior metric than happiness to chase.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, reframing your perspective to say money is a tool for freedom, peace of mind. There's no better feeling than giving without the expectation of return. And if you
Yep.
can do that monetarily, it's an incredible feeling. And I think it's very important to reframe and shift perspectives around that. There's so much we can unpack in what you just said, but I'm going to avoid it for the sake of a half day conversation. But a lot of people don't know that Rockefeller basically invented the school system to create those subservient 40-hour a week
Yeah, for
people.
the assembly line.
Yeah, the slow death.
Yeah, and that's the current schools. That's the current public education system.
Yeah.
Still intact.
Yeah, and a lot of people are probably going to be triggered when you brought up I hate that word too, triggered. It's triggering, but a lot of people are going to be
Yeah, the word
pissed.
triggering is a bit annoying, isn't it?
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd rather be pissed off by triggering than be triggered by bullshit. The 40-hour work week thing, I think, makes a lot of people angry because they just don't see an escape. Like,
Yeah.
how do I get out? What do I do? And
Well, I literally just outlined that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get really good at what you do. The reason you're probably not very happy with where you're at is because you're not very good at what you do. Again, you don't have to be proud of your job, but you have to be proud of your work. Being proud of your work gives you the ability to take it seriously. When you take it seriously, you improve. When you make more money, you will obviously have more freedom. But also, when you make more money, you are also making progress. And progress is where happiness comes from at the end of the day. The happiness that everybody's looking for is going to come from progress. It's going to come from making yourself proud. It's going to come from setting out to do something and then accomplishing it, and then doing that over and over and over again. And again, like also the work that you put in on yourself, the whatever escape people are looking for, the escape is in the books of the pages that you're avoiding, the pages of the books that you've been avoiding. Mm-hmm. And I really wish I had a better way to communicate this. I've thought about this over the years. I wish I could think of a better way to deliver this because nobody fucking reads, man. Nobody fucking reads. You don't have to read this. Average CEO, that quote 60 books a year. I don't read fucking 60 books a year. I don't know that I've ever read. Maybe when I was a drug dealer and had unlimited free time, I did. But you don't need to read 60 books a year, but you absolutely have to read. And I think reading is a superior option to audiobooks. I actually do both, but reading hits a little differently.
do
Reading
you listen while you read?
No.
Or separate? Okay.
No,
Okay.
separate. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely separate. But when you read, I think that it also helps you develop your speech. You'll become a better speaker. And when you're a better speaker, you'll be more confident. And it just also just kind of, it's almost like a workout for your brain. Mm-hmm. When you're reading, you're putting forth a little more energy than when you're just listening. And also when you're reading, you're going to retain a little, provided you're focused. And that's a thing most people have a hard time with, is focus. And one of the best ways to fix that, to fortify that, to unfuck your TikTok brain is by reading. Force yourself to lock in, put the phone up, read the pages of the book. 10 to 15 pages a day will change your life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you touched on something that I talk about in my content a lot outside of fitness, which is communication and articulation is a fucking superpower. If you can learn to public speak and tell your story, and I believe public speaking skills, sales skills are two of the most important things you could ever have in your life.
Agreed.
And I notice a lot of tendencies in you and your public speaking skills to pause instead of using filler words. Mm-hmm. It seems like something you take really seriously. So is that a big priority of yours, is being a proficient speaker?
Yeah. Years ago, I decided that I wanted to be somebody who was worth listening to. And I realized at that time that I wasn't that person. I had a long way to go. So I started writing posts on Facebook. That's where I started and started to write. And I write all the emails that we send out at Nutrition Solutions. I write those. I have somebody who sets them up in the system to send it all to our clients, but I write every word of copy. I take a lot of pride in that. And, the more that I do that, I feel like that directly influences my speaking as well in a positive way. So yes, I absolutely have been conscious and made it intentional to improve my speaking, to improve my delivery, to improve my methods of communication. And, I realize that my message isn't for everybody. I'm acutely aware of that. I realize that my message is triggering to some, is offensive to some. If you get offended by the message, look, that's not my intention. But you might want to analyze why you're offended. Why are you triggered by what it is I'm saying? Because I'm not attacking you.
Yeah.
I'm not attacking you, but you seem to think that I am. A Peruvian shaman told me during a 13-hour ayahuasca ceremony, a quote, I will never forget it. It absolutely changed my life. He said, "What offends you is what lacks within you."
Wow.
And it's so true. It's so true. Because when people see me talking about losing weight and getting in shape and how much better your life will be as a result of doing those things, what they hear, well, first of all, they want to think that I'm an asshole. They want to think that, I'm being judgmental. They want to think everything but the truth. And really what they think that I'm saying is, oh, you need to look like me. You need to have 6-pack shredded abs and obliques and all that. And that's not what I'm saying. But you should strive. I mean, I'm talking to men now. My message is to men. As a man, point blank, being fat is unacceptable. If you are a healthy, capable individual, if you are not terminally ill or have some disability, being fat is unacceptable. It just is. And this is the mentality that I have. And this is the mentality that I translate into the people around me. And, again, some people get upset when I say that. But some people actually get upset, and then it calls them to action to make the necessary changes in their life to sort themselves out. And my message is for those people.
And it can't be for everybody. If it was, you'd be pleasing everybody, and you wouldn't have anything worth saying.
Yeah, man. I think, I would estimate about 20% of people who hear my stuff or read my stuff, about 20% will actually listen. Out of that 20%, I think less than 1% will actually take action. But I'm good with that, man. I'm here for the 1%.
Yeah. I think if you change just one person's life, I think it all makes what we do worth it.
Facts.
That's the way that you have to continue to look at it. No matter if you're where I'm at or where you're at, if it's about what one person that reaches out to you and says, you changed my life. And I see it in sometimes you'll post a story of a guy who reaches out, what do I do? And then they reach back 3 months later and they thank you. Mm-hmm. One of the things is, as we close things out here that I want to talk to you about that you've mentioned a lot is your systems, your habits.
Yeah.
James Clear says we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And I'm curious, as a high performer yourself, how do you set goals, and then how do you become relentless about making sure you have the systems in place to get there? What does that look like for someone like you?
Yeah, so I think setting your environment up, like, for example, we're in my home right now. I have a podcast studio in my home. I wanted to make the process of creating content effortless. So I built this in my house. I get a home gym. So I can get up in the morning and go work out in my underwear if I want to. It takes absolutely no time at all. I save that time and I save the energy with the commute to the gym, and I can reallocate that time and that energy into my workouts. I want to make everything as smooth as possible, and I want to make everything as efficient as possible to get the results that I'm after, whether it's my fitness, whether it's my business or my personal life. I mean, look, obviously it's no secret I'm the owner of a healthy meal delivery service. So right now and at any given time, my refrigerator is always full of high protein, nutrient dense meals. I don't stress, I don't waste any time grocery shopping, cooking. Cooking, in my opinion, is a very low ROI activity. I don't see the value in it. Some people might want to cook for their family. Sometimes that's completely fine. But if you're trying to build an impressive physique and you're trying to take your fitness to the absolute highest level, you have to meal prep. You don't have to use a meal prep company, but you have to meal prep. You have to be prepared going into the day. And, if your refrigerator is full of clean food, you're going to eat clean food. But yeah, I mean, everything that I do is structured. My Monday through Sunday, my routine is the exact same. I do the same things. I get up in the morning. I do a workout. I get in the cold plunge, do a workout. I'll look at my money. I'll do some reading, and then I'll write down my critical tasks for the day, and then I get to work executing. It's simple. and it's efficient, and it's about being organized and being structured. As I said earlier, it's very easy to go nowhere if you do not have a target or a destination in mind. So after I work out in the morning, after I look at the money, after I read, when I'm writing my targets out on my card, what are the most important things that I need to do today to get me closer to where it is that I want to be, my big goal, right? And then I execute on those things. It's very, very simple. Do I want to do this stuff? No, most of the time I don't. And a little side note, if there's something that you have to do but don't want to do, have that be the first thing that you do. I've learned that makes it a lot less stressful, because if you avoid it, procrastinate, at the end of the day, you carry that mental energy around all day and it's just draining you. And I think that's a good point, because I want to do everything in my power to conserve my mental energy and conserve my bandwidth. I mean, my toilet paper, my paper towels, my supplements, all this stuff is on automated. Shows up to my house on a reoccurring schedule. I don't spend any time or energy thinking about that. This morning, when I got up for the workout, clothes already pulled out, ready to go. I put the clothes on and I go do what I need to do. I try to just make the process of achieving whatever it is that I'm looking to achieve as easy as possible.
Yeah, you're down to the toilet paper and paper towels. You're relentless about removing the barriers between you and the thing you want to do.
Well, as I've grown personally and professionally, again, that comes with more responsibility. And when you have more responsibility, you don't necessarily create more bandwidth. You have to conserve bandwidth. You have to reallocate things. You have to automate, delegate, outsource, do whatever you have to do to free up your mental energy. And I try to spend my time on things that only I can do. I want to spend my time on the things that I'm most passionate about and that move the needle. If there's something somebody else can do, then I'm going to have them do it. There's absolutely no reason for me to be doing something that I can pay somebody on my team to do, or they have the capacity to do. Mm-hmm. We need me doing only the things that I can do. And, that's why I'm so, borderline obsessed with the conservation of mental energy.
It's our most powerful asset. How far out do you set personal and professional goals for yourself? 5 years, 10 years? Do you do 90-day goals, sprints?
We do. So for business, we do annual goals. Obviously, we create financial targets and whatever the revenue is, and then the accompanied main KPIs. That's an annual thing. My bigger goals don't necessarily have any timelines, and that's a really terrible piece of advice if I was giving it, which I'm not, because deadlines are really important. A goal is not a goal without a deadline. But when I write my goals down, I'll just tell you what the first 3 are, right? I have 5. I'll just tell you the first 3. The last 2 are pretty personal. But the first one is my net worth is $250 million. Second one is I have freedom with my time and an amazing team who loves me and helps me win. And the third is I donated $10 million to charity this year. And if you notice, I talk about it as if it already has happened. None of those things have happened. I'm certainly not worth $250 million yet. I would absolutely say I have a bit of freedom with my time, but I still work a lot, man. I like what I do. I enjoy work. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have work. And I certainly haven't donated $10 million yet to charity, but I've wrote those same goals down for many years, and I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer, and eventually I'll be there, and then I'll set some higher goals.
I love that. One of the most powerful things I believe people can do that's changed my life is act as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Chris, as we close out the episode here, my message started when I got into this with one simple mission, and it's sharing easily implementable ways to improve your life. So for the listeners, we've touched on some of the stuff you probably do. If you were starting over and you were rebuilding everything from scratch, what are maybe the top 3 to 5 things you would do today that are easily implementable that would change everything for you?
I would get an amazing physical condition, because when you get in great shape, it's not just your body that improves, right? You develop discipline, you develop confidence, then you can point and direct that confidence and discipline at other areas of your life. I would be spending 1 hour every single day, and I do spend 1 hour every single day on personal development. And look, I'm 12, almost 13 years in to this particular business. I have other investments and ventures that I'm in, but nutrition solutions is my primary focus. But I'm learning more and studying more today than I arguably ever have. Like, again, your growth will never exceed your investment in your personal development. I'd cut all the dead weight out of my life, right? If somebody's not adding value in your life, they don't need to be in it. I know that sounds callous. I know that can sound mean. At the end of the day, the people in your life are either making your life better or making your life worse. We all know and have heard that we're the sum of the people we spend the most time with and all that. And people understand this to some degree, but for whatever reason, continue to hang out with people who have no goals, people who are smoking weed all day and sitting on their fucking ass and complaining about their boss and all this shit. Like, life is too fucking short to hang out or hang around people who are going to weigh you down and are going to drain your mental energy. You want to be around people who inspire greatness in you, people who basically force you to kind of elevate your standard. You want to do the same for them. And, you know, you obviously have to be mindful of the relationships. You heard the question, or one of the things I said to my team earlier. We were just working out with just the boys about how important it is to have the right partner. Having the right partner, you know, again, we've talked about the 5 people you spend the most time with, whatever. You are the average of the 5 you spend the most time with. But the part of that equation that isn't talked about enough is what influences it more than anything. And that's your partner. Your partner, they say, somebody has quantified this, but it actually makes a lot of sense that your partner is responsible for 50% of that equation.
Wow.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you have the right people around you. And, you know, I think I probably should have said this first. The first thing that you should do if you want to change your life is get pissed off. If you don't like your body, if you don't like your bank account, if you don't like the way things are going, you don't like your relationship, get pissed off. Become intolerant of your current circumstances. Draw a line in the fucking sand and then get to work. Get pissed off. Use that energy to fuel your ascent. Use that energy to push you through the hardest fucking days where you would rather die than take another fucking step forward. Getting pissed off is not a bad thing. Getting pissed off, I believe, and in my experience, has been a superpower.
I completely agree, and I can't think of a better way to end the conversation. Thank you for being here. It's
Of
a
course.
privilege and an opportunity to talk to
Yeah,
you.
we'll do
Thank
it
you for
again.
having me. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody. Drop a comment, like, and follow the channel if you haven't yet, and let me know what you thought of the episode. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next one.